They're all so different. Boyle and talking about the shape of my foot, he noticed at once even before he was introduced. When I was in the DBC with Polda laughing and trying to listen, I was waggling my foot. We both ordered 2 teas and plain bread and butter. I saw him looking with his 2 old maids of sisters when I stood up and asked the girl where it was. What did I care with it dropping out of me? And that black clothes breeches he made me buy takes you half an hour to let them down, wetting all myself always with some brand new fad every other week. Such a long one I did. I forgot my suede gloves on the seat behind it. I never got after some robber of a woman, and he wanted me to put it in the Irish Times lost in the ladies' lavatory. DBC Dame Street Finder returned to Mrs. Marion Bloom, and I saw his eyes on my feet going out through the turning door. He was looking when I looked back, and I went there for tea 2 days after in the hope, but he wasn't. Now how did it excite him? Because I was crossing them when we were in the other room. First he meant the shoes that are too tight to walk in. My hand is nice like that. If I only had a ring with a stone for my month and nice aquamarine, I'll stick him for one, and a gold bracelet. I don't like my foot so much, still I made him spin once with my foot the night after Goodwin's botch up of a concert. So cold and windy it was. Well, we had that rum in the house to mull, and the fire wasn't black out when he asked to take off my stockings lying on the hearth in Lombard Street West. And another time it was my muddy boots. He'd like me to walk and all the horse's dung I could find, but of course he's not natural like the rest of the world. What did he say? I could give 9 points in 10 the catty liner and beat her. What does that mean? I asked him. I forget what he said, because the Press edition just passed, and the man with the curly hair and the legendary thought so polite. I think I saw his face before somewhere. I noticed him when I was tasting the butter, so I took my time. Bartail Darcy too, that he used to make fun of when he commenced kissing me on the choir stairs after I sang Gounod's Ave Maria. What are we waiting for? My heart kissed me straight on the brown part, which is my brown part. He was pretty hot. For all his tinny voice to my low notes, he was always raving about it. If you can believe him, I liked the way he used his mouth singing. Then he said, why isn't it terrible to do there in a place like that? I don't see anything so terrible about it. I'll tell him about it someday, not now, and surprise him, and I'll take him there and show him the very place too. So now there you are, like it or lump it. He thinks nothing can happen without him knowing. He hadn't an idea about my mother till we were engaged. Otherwise he'd never have got me so cheap as he did. He was loads times worse himself anyhow, begging me to give him a tiny bit cut off my drawers. It was an evening coming along Kenilworth Square. He kissed me in the eye of my glove, and I had to take it off, asking me questions. Is it permitted to inquire the shape of my bedroom? So I let him keep it, as if I forgot it, to think of me when I saw him slip it into his pocket. Of course he's mad on the subject of drawers. Thoughts plain to be seen, always skeezing at those resin-faced things on the bicycles with their skirts blowing up to their navels. Even when Millie and I were out with him at the open-air fete, the one in the cream muslin standing right against the sun so he could see every atom she had on. When he saw me from behind following in the rain, I saw him before he saw me, however, standing at the corner of the Herald's Crossroad with a new raincoat on him, with the muffler in the Zingari colors to show off his complexion, and the brown hat, looking sly boots as usual. What was he doing there where he'd no business? They can go and get whatever they like from anything at all with a skirt on it, and we're not to ask any questions, but they want to know, where were you going? I could feel him coming along, skulking after me, his eyes on my neck. He had been keeping away from the house. He felt it was getting too warm for him, so I half turned and stopped. Then he pestered me to say yes till I took off my gloves, slowly watching him. He said my open-work sleeves were too cold for the rain, anything for an excuse to put his hand in near me. Drawers the whole blessed time, till I promised to give him the pair off my doll, the carry about in his waistcoat pocket. Oh, Maria Santissima, he did look a big fool, reaping in the rain. Splendid set of teeth he had made me hungry to look at them, and beseeched of me to lift the orange petticoat I had on with the sunray pleats, that there was nobody. He said he'd kneel down in the wet if I didn't, so persevering he would too, and ruin his new raincoat. You never know what freak they'd take alone with you. They're so savage for it if anyone was passing, so I lifted them a bit and touched his trousers out outside the way I used a gardener after with my ring hand to keep him from doing worse where it was too public. I was dying to find out was he circumcised. He was shaking like a jelly all over. They want to do everything too quick, take all the pleasure out of it, and father waiting all the time for his dinner. He told me to say I left my purse in the butcher's and had to go back for it. What a deceiver. Then he wrote me that letter with all those words in it. How could he have the face to any woman after his company manners, making it so awkward after when we met, asking me have I offended you with my eyelids down. Of course he saw I wasn't. He had a few brains, not like that other fool Henny Doll. He was always breaking or tearing something in the charades. I hate an unlucky man, and if I knew what it meant, of course I had to say no for form's sake. Don't understand you, I said, and wasn't it natural? So it is. Of course it used to be written up with a picture of a woman's on that wall in Gibraltar with that word I couldn't find anywhere, only for children, seeing it too young, then writing every morning a letter, sometimes twice a day. I liked the way he made love. Then he knew the way to take a woman when he sent me the big poppies, because mine was the 8th, and I wrote the night he kissed my heart at Dolphin's Bar, and I couldn't describe it simply. It makes you feel like nothing on earth. But he never knew how to embrace well like Gardner. I hope he'll come on Mondays, he said at the same time, for I hate people who come at all hours. Answer the door, you think it's the vegetables, then it's somebody and you all undressed, or the door of the filthy sloppy kitchen blows open the day old frosty face Goodwin called about the concert in Lombard Street, and I just after dinner all flushed and tossed with boiling old stew. Don't look at me, Professor, I had to say. I'm afraid yes, but he was a real old gent in his way. It was impossible to be more respectful. Nobody to say you're out. You have to peep out through the blind like the messenger boy. Today I thought it was a put-off. First him sending the port and the peaches first, and I was just beginning to yawn with nerves, thinking he was trying to make a fool of me, when I knew his tat at the door. He must have been a bit late, because it was L/4 after 3. Wait, I saw the two dealers girls coming from school. I never know the time. Even that watch he gave me never seems to go properly. I'd want to get it looked after when I threw the penny to the lame sailor for England Home and Beauty when I was whistling There's a Charming Girl I Love, and I hadn't even put on my clean shift or powdered myself or a thing. Then this day week we're to go to Belfast, just as well he has to go to, and it's his father's anniversary, the 27th, at Walden or Pleasant. If he did, suppose our rooms at the hotel were beside each other, and any fooling went on in the new bed, I couldn't tell him to stop and not bother me with him in the next room, or perhaps some Protestant clergyman with a cough knocking on the wall. Then he'd never believe the next day we didn't do something. It's all very well a husband, but you can't fool a lover. After me telling him we never did anything, of course he didn't believe me. No, it's better his going where he is. Besides, something always happens with him. The time going to the Mala concert at Maribor, ordering boiling soup for the two of us. Then the bell rang out. He walks down the platform with the soup splashing about, taking spoonfuls of it. Hadn't he the nerve, and the waiter after him making a holy show of us, screeching in confusion for the engine to start, but he wouldn't pay till he finished it. The two gentlemen in the third-class carriage said he was quite right, so he was too soak-headed. Sometimes when he gets a thing into his head, a good job. He was able to open the carriage door with his knife, or they'd have taken us on to Cork. I suppose that was done out of revenge on him. Oh, I love jaunting in a train or a car with lovely soft cushions. I wonder, will he take a first class from me? He might want to do it in the train by tipping the guard well. Oh, I suppose there will be the usual idiots of men gaping at us with their eyes as stupid as ever they can possibly be. That was an exceptional man, the common workman. That left us alone in the carriage that day going to Hoth. They'd like to find out something about him, or 2 tunnels perhaps. Then you have to look out of the window all the nicer than coming back. Suppose I never came back, what would they say? I looked with him that gets yawned on the stage. The last concert I sang at, where it's over a year ago, and was at St. Teresa's Hall, Clarendon. Saying little chits of missies they have now singing Kathleen Kearney and her like, on account of father being in the army, and my singing the absent-minded beggar and wearing a brooch for Lord Roberts when I had the map of it all. And Poldy not Irish enough, was it him managed it this time? I wouldn't put it past him, like he got me on to sing in the Stabat Mater by going around saying he was putting Let Kindly Light to music. I put him up to that till the Jesuits found out he was a Freemason thumping the piano. on carpet from some old opera, yes, and he was going about with some of them sinner found lately or whatever they call themselves, talking his usual trash and nonsense. He says the little man he showed me without the neck is very intelligent. The coming man Griffith says well he doesn't look it. That's all I can say. Still it must have been him. He knew there was a boycott. I hate the mention of their politics after the war. That Pretoria and late Smith and Bloemfontein were Gardner lieutenants. G8th and 2nd East Lancs RGT of enteric fever. He was a lovely fellow in khaki and just the right height over me. I'm sure he was brave too. He said I was lovely. The evening we kissed goodbye at the canal lock. My Irish beauty. He was pale with excitement about going away out where it'd be seen from the road. He couldn't stand properly and I so hot as I never felt. They could have made a peace in the beginning or old Doom Paul and the rest of the other old Krugers go and fight it out between them. Instead of dragging on for years killing any Fennel-looking men there were with their fever. If he was even decently shot, it wouldn't have been so bad. I love to see a regiment pass in review. The first time I saw the Spanish cavalry at La Roca, it was lovely. After looking across the bay from Algeciras, all the lights of the rock like fireflies on those sham battles on the 15 acres, the Black Watch with their kilts in time at the march past the 10th Hussars, the Prince of Wales. Own are the Lancers, oh the Lancers, they're grander the Dublins than Wanchigula. His father made his money over selling the horses for the cavalry. Well, he could buy me a nice present up in Belfast after what I gave him. The lovely linen up there are one of those nice kimono things I must buy mothball like I had before to keep in the drawer with them. It would be exciting going around with him shopping, buying those things in a new city. Better leave this ring behind one to keep turning and turning to get it over the knuckle. There or they might bail it round the town in their papers or tell the police on me, but they'd think we're married. Oh, let them all go and smother themselves. For the fat lot I care, he has plenty of money and he's not a marrying man, so somebody better get it out of him. If I could find out whether he likes me. I looked a bit washy, of course, when I looked close in the hand glass. Powdering a mirror never gives you the expression. Besides, scrooching down on me that all the time with his big hip bones, his heavy too with his hairy chest. For this heat always having to lie down for them. Better for him put it into me from behind the way. Mrs. Mastiansky told me her husband made her like the dogs do it and stick out her tongue as far as ever she could, and he's so quiet and mild with his ting-aiding sither. Can you ever be up to men the way it takes them? Lovely stuff in that blue suit he had on and stylish tie and socks with the sky blue silk things on them. He's certainly well off, I know by the cut his clothes have and his heavy watch, but he was like a perfect devil. For a few minutes after he came back with the press tearing up the tickets and swearing blazes because he lost 20 quid. He said he lost over that outsider that 1.5 he put on for me on account of Linian's tip, cursing him to the lowest pitch. The sponger he was making free with me after the Glen Creed dinner come back that long jolt over the Fifth Herb Mountain after the Lord Mayor looking at me with his dirty eyes. Val Dillon at Big Heathen. I first noticed him at dessert when I was cracking the nuts with my teeth. I wished I could have picked every morsel of that chicken out of my fingers. It was so tasty and browned and as tender as anything, only for I didn't want to eat everything on my plate. Those forks and fish slicers were all marked silver too. I wish I had some. I could easily have slipped a couple into my muff when I was playing with them. They always hanging out of them for money in a restaurant for the bit you put down your throat. We have to be thankful for our mangy cup of tea itself as a great compliment to be noticed. The way the world is divided, in any case, if it's going to go on, I want at least 2 other good chemists for one thing, but I don't know what kind of drawers he likes. None at all. I think didn't he say yes, and half the girls in Gibraltar never wore them either. Because God made them that, and delusion singing her Manola. She didn't make much secret of what she had, and yes, and the second pair of silk stockings is laddered. After one day's wear I could have brought them back to Lures this morning and kicked up a row and made it one change them, only not to upset myself and ruin the risk of walking into him and ruining the whole thing in one of those kid-fitting corsets it won't advertise cheap in their gentlewoman with elastic garters on the hips. He saved the one I have, but thought's no good. What did they say? They give a delightful figure. Line 11 6 obviating that unsightly broad appearance across the lower back to reduce flesh. My belly is a bit too big. I'll have to knock off the stout at dinner, or am I getting too fond at the last? The cent from Oryx was as flat as a pancake. He makes his money easy, Larry. They call him the old mangy parcel. He sent at Christmas a cottage cake and a bottle of hogwash. He tried to palm off his claret that he couldn't get anyone to drink. God spare his spit for fear he'd die the drought, or I must do a few breathing exercises. I wonder, is that any fat any good? Might overdose it. The thin ones are not so much the fashion now. Garters that much. I have the violet pair I wore today. Thought's all he bought me out of the check he got on the first. Oh no, there was a face lotion I finished the last of yesterday that made my skin like new. I told him over and over again, get it made up in the same place and don't forget it. God only knows whether he did. After all, I said to him 111 no, buy the bottle anyway. If not, I suppose 111 only have to wash in my piss like beef tail or chicken soup. But some of that Opanax and violet, I thought it was beginning to look coarser, old a bit. The skin underneath is much finer where it peeled off there on my finger after the burn. It's a pity it isn't all like that. And the 4 paltry handkerchiefs about 6/ and all. Sure, you can't get on in this world without style. All going and food and rent. When I get it to lash it around, I'll tell you, and find style. I always want to throw a handful of tea into the pot, measuring and mincing. If I buy a pair of old brogues itself, do you like those new shoes? Yes. How much were they? I have no clothes at all. The brown costume and the skirt and jacket and the one at the cleaners. 3. What's that for any woman? Cutting up this old hat and patching up the other. The men won't look at you, and women try to walk on you because they know you've no man. And with all the things getting dearer every day, for the 4 years more I have of life up to 35, knowing what am I at all? 111 be 33 in September. Well, I would. Oh well, look at that Mrs. Galbraith. She's much older than me. I saw her when I was out last week. Her beauty's on the way, and she was a lovely woman. Magnificent head of hair on her down to her waist, tossing it back like that, like Kitty O'Shea. Grantham Street. First thing I did every morning to look across, see her combing it as if she loved it and was full of it. Pity I only got to know her the day before we left, and that Mrs. Langtry, the Jersey lily the Prince of Wales was in love with. I suppose he's like the first man going the roads only for the name of a king. They're all made the one way. Only black men's would like to try a beauty up to what was she 45. There was some funny story about the jealous old husband. What was it all in an oyster knife? He went, no, he made her wear a kind of a tin thing around her. And the Prince of Wales, yes, he had the oyster knife. Can't be true a thing like that. Like some of those books he brings me, the works of Master Francois. Somebody's supposed to be a priest about a child born out of her ear because her bum would fill out. A nice word for any priest to write in her ear. As if any fool won't know what the men. I hate the pretending of all things with that old blackguard's face on him. Anybody can see it's not true. And that ruby and fair tyrants, he brought me that twice. I remember when I came to page 50, the part about where she hangs him up out of a hook with a cord flagellate. Sure, there's nothing for a woman in that all invention made up about he drinking the champagne out of her slipper after the ball was over like the infant Jesus in the crib, or them chick horn in the Blessed Virgin's arms. Sure, no woman could have a child that big taken out of her. And I thought first it came out of her side, because how could she go to the chamber when she wanted to, and she a rich lady? Of course she felt honored. He was in Gibraltar the year I was born. I bet he found lilies there too where he planted the tree. He planted more than that in his time. He might have planted me too if he'd come a bit sooner. Then I wouldn't be here as I am. He ought to chuck that Freeman with the paw. For a few shillings he knocks out of it and go into an office or something where he'd get regular pay, or a bank where they could put him up on the throne to count the money all the day. Of course he prefers plottering about the house, so you can't start with him any side. What's your program today? I wish he'd even smoke a pipe like father to get the smell of a man, or pretending to be a mooching about for advertisements when he could have been in Mr. Cuff's still only for what he did, then sending me to try and patch it up. I could have got him promoted there to be the manager. He gave me a great marauder once or twice. First he was as stiff as the mischief, really and truly Mrs. Bloom, only I felt rotten simply with the old rubbish dress that I lost the leads out of the tails with no cut in it, but they're coming into fashion again. I bought it simply to please him. I knew it was no good by the finished. Pity I changed my mind of going to Todd and Bums, as I said, and not Lee's. It was just like the shop itself, rummage sale, a lot of trash. I hate those rich shops, get on your nerves. Nothing kills me altogether, only he thinks he knows a great lot about the woman's dress and cooking, mothering everything he can scour off the shelves, and if I went by his advices every blessed had I put on, does that suit me? Yes, take that, thought's alright, the one like a wedding cake standing up miles off my head, he said, suited me, or the dish cover one coming on my backside on pins and needles about the shop girl in that place on Grafton Street. I had the misfortune to bring him into, and she's insolent as ever she could be, with her smirk, saying, I'm afraid we're giving you too much trouble. What she's there for? But I stared it out of her. Yes, he was awfully stiff, and no wonder, but he changed the second time. He looked pony-headed as usual like the soup, but I could see him looking very hard at my chest when he stood up, opened the door for me. It was nice of him to show me out. In any case, I'm extremely sorry, Mrs. Bloom, believe me, without making it too marked the first time. After him being insulted and me being supposed to be his wife, I just half smiled. I know my chest was out that way at the door when he said, I'm extremely sorry, and I'm sure you were. Yes, I think them a bit firmer, sucking them like that so long he made me thirsty. TDs he calls them. I had to laugh. Yes, this one anyhow stiff the nipple guts for the least thing. I'll get him to keep it up, and he'll take those eggs beaten up with Marcel to fatten them out for him. What are all those veins and things? Curious the way it's made too. The same in case of twins. They're supposed to represent beauty, placed up there like those statues in the museum, one of them pretending to hide it with her hand. Are they so beautiful? Of course, compared with what a man looks like with his two bags full and his other thing hanging down out of him or sticking up at you like a track. No wonder they hide it with the caviar leaf. That disgusting Cameron Highlander behind the meat market, or that other wretch with the red head behind the tree where the statue of the fish used to be when I was passing, pretending he was piecing, standing out for me to see it, with his baby clothes up the one side. The Quins on, they were nice lot as well. The series relieved them. They're always trying to show it to you every time nearly I passed outside the men's greenhouse near the Harcourt Street station just to try some fellow or other trying to catch my eye as if it was out of the seven wonders of the world. Oh, and the stink of those rotten places, the night coming home with Poldy after the commercials party, oranges and lemonade to make you feel nice and watery. I went into all of them. It was so biting cold I couldn't keep it. When was that? 93. The canal was frozen. Yes, it was a few months after. Pity a couple of the camerons weren't there to see me squatting in the men's place meat arrow. I tried to draw a picture of it before I tore it up like a sausage or something. I wonder they're not afraid going about and getting a kick or a bang or something there. The woman is beauty, of course, Thoughts admitted when he said I could pose for a picture naked to some rich fellow in Hull Street when he lost the job in her lives, and I was selling the clothes and strumming in the coffee palace. Would I be like that bath of the nymph with my hair down? Yes, only she's younger. I'm a little like that dirty bitch in that Spanish photo. His nymphs used to go about like that. I asked him about her, and that word meant something with hoses in it, and he came out with some jawbreakers about the incarnation. He never can explain a thing simply the way a body can understand. Then he goes and burns the bottom out of the panel for his kidney. This one not so much. There's the mark at his teeth still where he tried to bite the nipple. I had to scream out, aren't the fearful trying to hurt you? I had a great breast of milk with Millie enough for two. What was the reason of it? He said I could have got a pound a week as a wet nurse, all swelled out the morning. The delicate looking student that stopped in No 28 with the St. Ron's Penrose nearly caught me washing through the window, only for I snapped up the towel to my face. That was his student thing hurting me. They used tweening her till he got Dr. her Brady to give me the Belladonna and the prescription. I had to get him to suck them. They were so hard. He said it was sweeter and thicker than cows. Then he wanted to milk me into the tea. Well, he's beyond everything. I declare somebody ought to put him in the budget. If I only could remember the I half of the things and write a book out of it. The works of Master Poldy. Yes, and it's so much smoother. The skin much an hour. He was at them, I'm sure, by the clock like some kind of a big infant. I had at me. There went everything in their mouth. All the pleasure those men get out of a woman. I can feel his mouth. Oh Lord, I'm not stretch myself. I wished he was here or somebody to let myself go with and come again like that. I feel all fire inside me, or if I could dream when he made me spend the second time tickling me behind with his finger. I was coming for about 5 minutes with my legs around him. I had to hug him after. Oh Lord, I wanted to shout out all sorts of things, fuck or shit or anything at all, only not to look ugly. All those lines from The Strain, who knows the way HED take it. You want to feel your way with a man, they're not all like him. Thank God some of them want you to be so nice about it. I noticed the contrast. He doesn't talk. I gave my eyes that look with my hair a bit loose from the tumbling and my tongue between my lips up to him. The savage brute. Thursday, Friday, 1 Saturday, 2 Sunday, 3. Oh Lord, I can't wait till Monday for flying train somewhere whistling the strength. Those engines having them like big giants and the water rolling all over and out of them all sides like the end of love's old sweet song. The poor men that have to be out all the night from their wives and families and those roasting engines stifling. It was the day I'm glad I burned the half of those old Freemans and photo bits, leaving things like that lying about his getting very careless, and threw the rest of them up in the WC 111. Get him to cut them tomorrow for me instead of having them there for the next year to get a few pence for them. Have him asking where's last January's paper and all those old overcoats. I bundled out of the hall, making the place hotter than it is. The rain was lovely and refreshing just after my beauty sleep. I thought it was going to get like Gibraltar. My goodness, the heat there before the Levant came on black as night, and the glare of the rock standing up in it like a big giant compared with their 3 Rock Mountain they think is so great, with the red centuries here and there, the poplars, and they all white hot, and the smell of the rainwater in those tanks, watching the sun all the time weltering down on you, faded all that lovely frock. Father's friend Mrs. Stanhope sent me from the B. Marsh Paris. What a shame, my dearest dog Arena, she wrote on it. She was very nice. What's this? Her other name was just a PC to tell you I sent the little present. Have just had a jolly warm bath and feel a very clean dog now. Enjoyed it. Wagger, she called him Wagger. WD, give anything to be back and give, and here he sing waiting in an old Madrid. Coney is the name of those exercises. He bought me one of those news and word I cold make out shawls, amusing things, but here for the least thing still they're lovely. I think, don't you always think of the lovely tea we had together, scrumptious currants, cones, and raspberry wafers. I adore. Well now, dearest dog Arena, be sure and write soon, kind. She left out regards to your father, also Captain Grove, with love, ears Affley Hessner XXXXX. She didn't look a bit married, just like a girl. He was years older than her. Wagger, he was awfully fond of me when he held down the wire with his foot for me to step over at the bullfight at Law. Anyway, that Matador Gomez was given the bull's ear. These clothes we have to wear, whoever invented them, expecting you to walk up Killiney Hill. Then, for example, at the picnic, all staged up. You can't do a blessed thing in them in a crowd. Run or jump out of the way. Thoughts why I was afraid when that other ferocious old bull began to charge the bandoleros with the sashes and the 2 things in their hats, and the brutes of men shouting bravo toro. Sure, the women were as bad in their nice white mantillas, ripping all the whole insides out of those poor horses. I never heard of such a thing in all of my life. Yes, he used to break his heart at me taking off the dog barking and bellowing. Poor brute, and it's sick what became of them ever. I suppose they're dead long ago, the 2 of them. It's like all through a mist, makes you feel so old. I made the scones, of course. I had everything all to myself. Then the girl Hessner we used to compare our hair, mine was thicker than hers. She showed me how to settle it at the back when I put it up, and what's this else, how to make a knot on the thread with the one hand. We were like cousins. What age was I then? The night of the storm I slept in her bed. She had her arms around me, then we were fighting in the morning with the pillow. What fun he was watching me whenever he got an opportunity at the band on the Alameda Esplanade. When I was with Father and Captain Grove, I looked up at the church first and then at the windows, then down, and our eyes met. I felt something go through me like all needles. My eyes were dancing. I remember after when I looked at myself in the glass, hardly recognized myself. The change. He was attractive to a girl in spite of his being a little bald, intelligent looking, disappointed and gay at the same time. He was like Thomas in the shadow of a slide diet. I had a splendid skin from the sun and the excitement like a rose. I didn't get a wink of sleep. It wouldn't have been nice on account of her, but I could have stopped at him time. She gave me the Moonstone to read. That was the first I read of Wilkie Collins Eastland. I read In the Shadow of a Slide Died Mrs. Henry with Henry Dunbar by that other woman. I lent him afterwards with Mulvey's photo in it so as he see I wasn't without. Lord let me Jean there and Molly Bond she gave me by Mrs. Hungerford on account of the name. I don't like books with a Molly in them like that one he brought me about the one from Flanders. Who always shoplifting anything she could, cloth and stuff and yards of it. Oh, this blanket is too heavy on me. Thought's better I haven't even one decent night dress. This thing gets all rolled under me. Besides him and his fooling, thought's better I used to be weltering then in the heat. My shift drenched with the sweat stuck in the cheeks of my bottom on the chair. When I stood up they were so fattish and firm. When I got up on the sofa cushions to see with my clothes up and the bugs, tons of them at night, and the mosquito nets, I couldn't read a line lower. How long ago it seems centuries. Of course they never came back, and she didn't put her address right on it either. She may have noticed her Wagger people were always going away, and whenever I remember the day with the waves in the boats with their high heads rocking and the smell of ship, those officers' uniforms on shore leave made me seasick. He didn't say anything. He was very serious. I had the high button boots on and my skirt was blowing. She kissed me 6 or 7 times. Didn't I cry? Yes, I believe I did. I near it. My lips were tettering when I said goodbye. She had a gorgeous wrap of some special kind of color on her for the voyage, made very peculiarly to one side like, and it was extremely pretty. It got as dull as the devil after they went. I was almost planning to run away mad out of it somewhere. We're never easy where we're father and her marriage waiting, always waiting to get him to me, waiting nor speed his flying feet, their damn guns bursting and booming all over the shop, especially the Queen's birthday, and throwing everything down in all directions. If he didn't open the windows when General Ulysses Grant, whoever he was, ordered supposed to be some great fellow, landed off the ship, and old Sprague, the consul that was there from before the flood, dressed up poor man, and he in mourning for the sun. Then the same old bugles for reveille in the morning, and drums rolling, and the unfortunate poor devils of soldiers walking about with mist and smelling the place more than the old long-bearded Jews in their lobbies and Levi. Assembly and sound clear, and gunfire for the men to cross the lines, and the warden marching with his keys to lock the gates, and the bagpipes, and only Captain Groves and Father talking about Robert's Drift and pleading, and Sir Garnet Wolseley and Gordon at Khartoum lighting their pipes for them every time they went out drunk, and old devil with his grog on the windowsill, catch him leaving any of it, picking his nose, trying to think of some other dirty story to tell up in a corner. But he never forgot himself when I was there, sending me out of the room on some blind excuse, paying his compliments, the Bushmills whiskey, talking of course, but he'd do the same to the next woman that came along. I suppose he died of galloping drink ages ago, the days like years, not a letter from a living soul except the odd few I posted to myself with bits of paper, and them so bored sometimes I could fight with my nails listening to that old Arab with the one eye and his hiss of an instrument singing his hia. All my compliments on your hot watch of your hiss as bad as now, with the hands hanging off me looking out of the window. If there was a nice fellow even in the opposite house, that medical in Hull Street, the nurse was after when I put on my gloves and hat at the window to show I was going out. Not a notion what I meant. Aren't they thick? Never understand what you say. Even you'd want to print it up on a big poster for them. Not even if you shake hands twice with the left. He didn't recognize me either when I half frowned at him outside beside Westland Road Chapel. Where does their great intelligence come in? It like the no gray matter, they have it all in their tail. If you ask me, those country gougers up in the city, arms intelligence, they had a damn sight less than the bulls and cows they were selling the meat, and the cowman's bell, that noisy bugger trying to swindle me with the wrong bill. He took out of his hat what a pair of poison pots and pans and kits to mend any broken bottles for a poor man today, and the visitors are post ever accept his chickens or some advertisement like that wonder worker they sent him addressed, "Dear Madam," only his letter in the card from me this morning. See, she wrote the letter to him. Who did I get the last letter from? Oh, Mrs. Dwin. Now what possessed her to write from Canada after so many years to know the recipe I had for peace, though Madeline Floyd Dillon, since she wrote to say she was married to a very rich architect, if him to believe all I here with a villa and 8 rooms. Her father was an awfully nice man, he was, near 70, always good humored. Well, now Miss Tweedy or Miss Gillespie, there's a pioneer that was a solid silver coffee service. He had 2 on the mahogany settee board, and dying so far away. I hate people that have always their poor story to tell. Everybody has their own troubles. That poor Nancy Blake died a month ago of acute pneumonia. Well, I didn't know her so well as all that. She was Floyd's friend more than mine. Poor Nancy, it's a bothered having to answer. He always tells me the wrong things and no stops to say, like making a speech your sad bereavement sympathy. I always make that mistake and it be with 2 W's, and I hope he'll write me a longer letter the next time if it's a thing he really likes. Thanks be to the great God I got somebody to give me what I badly wanted, to put some heart up into me. You've no chances at all in this place like you used long ago. I wish somebody would write me a love letter. His wasn't much, and I told him he could write what he liked. Yours ever, Hugh Boylan. And old Madrid stuff. Silly women believe love is sighing. I am dying still. If he wrote it, I suppose there'd be some truth in it. True or no, it fills up your whole day in life. Always something to think about every moment, and see it all around you like a new world. I could write the answer in bed to let him imagine me, short, just a few words, not those long crossed letters. Addie Dillon used to write to the fellow that was something in the forecourts that jilted her after out of the lady's letter writer. When I told her to say a few simple words, he could twist how he liked, not acting with precipitancy, with equal candor. The greatest earthly happiness. Answer to a gentleman's proposal affirmatively. My goodness, there's nothing else. It's all very fine for them, but as for being a woman, as soon as you're old, they might as well throw you out in the bottom of the ash pit. Vase was the first when I was in bed that morning, and Mrs. Rubio brought it in with the coffee. She stood there standing when I asked her to hand me, and I pointing at them. I couldn't think of the word. I happened to open it with all her quality, disobliging old thing, and staring her in the face with her switch of false hair on her, and vain about her appearance, ugly as she was near 80 or less. Her face a mass of wrinkles, with all her religion domineering, because she never could get over the Atlantic fleet coming in, half the ships of the world in the Union Jack flying, with all her carabineros, because 4 drunken English sailors took all the rock from them, and because I didn't run into Mass often enough in Santa Maria to please her with her shawl up on her, except when there was a Mary John with all her miracles of the saints, and her black blessed Virgin with the silver dress, and the sun dancing 3 times on Easter Sunday morning, and when the priest was going by with the bell bringing the Vatican to the dying, blessing herself for his moyasnet and admirer, he signed it. I near jumped out of my skin. I wanted to pick him up when I saw him following me along the calle reel in the shop window. Then he tipped me just in passing, but I never thought he'd right make an appointment. I had it inside my petticoat bodice all day, reading it up in every hole and corner, while Father was up at the drill instructing to find out by the handwriting or the language of stamps, singing, I remember, shall I wear a white rose? And I wanted to put on the old stupid clock to near the time. He was the first man kissed me under the Moorish wall, my sweetheart, when the boy never entered my head what kissing meant till he put his tongue in my mouth. His mouth was sweet like young. I put my knee up to him a few times to learn the way. What did I tell him? I was engaged for fun to the son of a Spanish nobleman named Don Miguel de la Flor, and he believed me that I was to be married to him in 3 years' time. There's many a true word spoken, and just there's a flower that blew him with a few things I told him true about myself, just for him to be imagining the Spanish girls he didn't like. I suppose one of them wouldn't have him. I got him excited. He crushed all the flowers on my bosom. He brought taught me. He couldn't count the pesetas and the paragordas till I taught him Kepo Queen. He came from, he said, on the black water, but it was too short in the day before he left me. Yes, it was May when the infant king of Spain was born. Always like that in the spring, it like a new fellow every year. Up on the tip-top under the rock gun near Ahur's tower, I told him it was struck by lightning and all about the old Barbary apes that sent to Clapham without it. Creating all over the show on each other's back. Mrs. Rubio said she was a regular old rock scorpion, robbing the chickens out of Vince's farm and throw stones at you if you went near. He was looking at me. I had that white blouse on open in the front to encourage him as much as I could without too openly. They were just beginning to plump. I said I was tired. We lay over the Firchakov, a wild place. I suppose it must be the highest rock in existence. The galleries and castmates and those frightful rocks in the St. Michael's Cave with the icicles or whatever they call them hanging down in ladders, all the mud plotting my boots. I'm sure thought's the way down. The monkeys go under the sea to Africa when they die. The ships out far like ships. There was a Malta boat passing. Yes, the sea and the sky. You could do what you like, lie there forever. He caressed them outside. They loved doing the dips around, and as there I was leaning over him with my white rice bra. I had to take the newness out of it. The left side of my face the best. My blouse open for his last day, transparent kind of shirt he had. I could see his chest pink. He wanted to touch mine with his for a moment, but I wouldn't leave him. He was awfully put out first for fear he'd never know consumption or leave me with a child in Barasada. That old servant Inez told me that one drop, even if it got into you at all. After I tried with the banana, but I was afraid it might break and get lost up in me somewhere, because they once took something down out of a woman that was up there for years covered with lime salts. They're all mad to get in there where they come out of. You'd think they could never go far enough up, and then they're done with you and away till the next time. Yes, because there's a wonderful feeling. They're so tender all the time. How did we finish it off? Yes, oh yes, I pulled him off into my handkerchief, pretending not to be excited, but I opened my legs. I will let him touch me inside my petticoat because I had a skirt opening up the side. I tormented the life out of him, first tickling him. I loved rousing the dog in the hotel. RRRSSSSDT walk walk a walk, his eyes shut and a bird flying below us. He was shy all the same. I liked him like that, moaning. I made him blush a little when I got over him that way. When I unbuttoned him and took his out and drew back the skin, it hit a kind of iron up there all but men down the middle on the wrong side of them. Molly darling, he called me. What was his name? Jack Joe Harry Mulvey was it? Yes, I think a lieutenant. He was rather fair. He had a laughing kind of a voice. So I went round to the articulate. Everything was articulate. Mustache. He said, H.E.D. come back, Lord. It's just like yesterday to me. And if I was married, H.E.D. do it to me. And I promised him, yes, faithfully. Had let him block me. Now flying. Perhaps he's dead or killed or a captain off. Admiral, it's nearly 20 years. If I said Firchakov, he would. If he came up behind me and put his hands over my eyes to guess who, I might recognize him. He's young, still about 40, perhaps has married some girl on the black water and has quite changed. They haven't half the character a woman has. She little knows what I did with her beloved husband before he ever dreamt of her in broad daylight, too, in the sight of the whole world. You might say they could have put an article about it in the Chronicle. I was a bit wild after when I blew out the old bag the biscuits were in from Benetti Broast and exploded it. Lord, would it bang, all the woodcocks and pigeons screaming coming back the same way that we went over Middle Hill round by the old guardhouse in the Jewsbury all place, pretending to read out the Hebrew on them. I wanted to fire his pistol. He said he hadn't one. He didn't know what to make of me with his peak cap on it. He always wore crooked as often as I settled it straight. HMS Calypso swinging my hat. That old bishop that spoke off the altar his long preach about woman's higher functions, about girls now riding the bicycle and wearing peak caps, and the new woman bloomers. God send him sense and me more money. I suppose they're called after him. I never thought that would be my name, Bloom, when I used to write it in print to see how it looked on a visiting card or practicing for the butcher. Oblige him, Bloom, you're looking blooming, Josie used to say after I married him. Well, well it's better than Breen or Briggs does. Briggs are the awful names with bottom and then Mrs. Ramsbottom or some other kind of a bottom. Well, I won't go mad about either. I suppose I divorced him. Mrs. Boyle and my mother, whoever she was, might have given me a nicer name, the Lord knows, after the lovely one she had. Juanita Laredo, the fun we had running along Ulysses Road to Europa Point, twisting in and out all around the other side of Jersey. They were shaking and dancing about in my blouse like mill-eyed little ones. Now when she runs up the stairs, I love looking down at them. I was jumping up at the pepper trees and the white poplars, pulling the leaves off and throwing them at him. He went to India. He was to write the voyages those men have to make to the ends of the world and back. It's the least they might get a squeeze or two at a woman while they can going out to be drowned or blown up somewhere. I wait up Windmill Hill to the flats at Sunday morning with Captain Rubio's. It was dead spyglass like the Century had. He said he'd have one or two from on board. I wore the frock from the Marsh Paris and the coral necklace, the straits shining. I could see over to Morocco, almost the Bay of Tangier white, and the Atlas Mountain with snow on it, and the straits like a river so clear. Harry Molly, darling, I was thinking of him on the sea all the time after at Mass when my petticoat began to slip down at the elevation. Weeks and weeks I kept the handkerchief under my pillow for the smell of him. There was no decent perfume to be got in that Gibraltar, only the cheap Peau de Spain. That faded and left a stink on me more than anything else. I wanted to give him a memento. He gave me that clumsy clattering for luck that I gave Gardner going to South Africa, where those Boers killed him with their warren fever, but they were well beaten all the same, as if it brought its bad luck with it. Like an opal or pearl, still it must have been pure 18-karat gold because it was very heavy. But what could you get in a place like that? The sand frogs showered from Africa in a derelict ship that came up to the harbor. Marie Hertog. No, he hadn't a mustache. That was Gardner. Yes, I can see his face, clean shaven for sea frog that train again, weeping tone once in the dear days beyond recall. Closed my eyes, breath my lips forward, kiss sadly. Eyes open, piano air over the world. The mist began. I hate that iceberg comes love sweet soon. You'll let the out full when I get in front of the footlights again. Kathleen Kearney and her lot of squealers miss this, miss that, miss Theo. Their lot of spare for skidding around talking about politics. They know as much about as my backside, anything in the world to make themselves some interesting. Irish homemade beauties, soldier's daughter, and my aunt who's a bootmakers and publicans. I beg your pardon, coach, I thought you were a wheelbarrow. They had died down dead off their feet if ever they got a chance of walking down the Alameda on an officer's arm like me on the band night. My eyes flash my bus that they haven't passion. God help their poor head. I knew more about men and life when I was asked than they all know at 50. They don't know how to sing a song like the Gardner said. No man could look at my mouth and teeth smiling like that and not think that I was afraid he mightn't like my accent first. He's so English. All father loved me in spite of his stamp side, my mother's eyes and figure. Anyhow, he always said they're so snotty about themselves. Some of those cats who wasn't a bit like that. He was dead gone on my lips. Let them get a husband first. Thought it's fit to be looked at in a daughter like mine, or see if they can excite a swell with money. They can pick and choose whoever he wants, like Boyle, to do it 4 or 5 times locked in each other's arms. A divorce, either I could have been a prima donna, only I married him. Comes loose, old deep down, chin back, not too much, make it double. My latest bower is too long for an encore. About the moated grange at twilight and vaunted rooms, yes, ill sing winds that blow from the south. He gave after the choir's terrace performance. Ill change that lace on my black dress to show off my bubs, and ill, yes, by God, ill get the big fan mended, make them burst within me. My hole is itching me always. When I think of him, I feel I want to. I feel some wind in me. Better go easy, not wake him. Have him at it again, slobbering after washing every bit of myself, back, belly, and sides. If we had even a bath itself or my own room, anyway, I wish he'd sleep in some bed by himself with his cold feet on me. Give us a room even to let it far. Goddard, the least thing better. Yes, hold them like the bit on my side. Piano quiet with sweet. There's that train far away, pie, and this one more song.